Hey everyone, thanks for signing on. My name is Ben Finkel. I'm a trainer here with CBT Nuggets, and I'm going to spend the next 15 or 20 minutes talking about how to communicate your worth as an IT pro. The context or the notion that I'm considering in this conversation is most likely that you are either A, interviewing for a new job, or B, trying to move up and convince your superiors at your existing job that you should be promoted or granted a raise or whatever the case might be. Communicating your worth is a critical part of this. No one's just going to hand you the things that you want. You need to know how to ask for these things, and specifically, you need to know how to justify when you want to ask for these things. The first thing that I'd like to talk about, and this is kind of going to hover over the entire conversation that we have here today, is that communicating your worth, or speaking up, as we're saying, is really all about learning to brag about yourself. And, brag, it's one of those words that kind of has, well, I don't know, a negative connotation, right? I mean, we don't really think of bragging as a good thing. And if I say, well, that guy's bragging or he's being a braggart, generally there's some not niceness associated with that. We don't really think that that's a good thing. But when you are interviewing for a job, when you're trying to move up in your current workplace, your current position, when you are putting yourself out there, when you are selling yourself, really you're just bragging about yourself, and you need to learn how to do that appropriately, because the simple fact of the matter is you can brag about yourself in a good way. You're expected to brag about yourself in these situations, and it's okay to talk about yourself in positive and to highlight the things that are great about you. Now, the way that you do that is, well, follow along on this webinar. We're going to talk about a lot of different ways to brag about yourself. But to talk specifically to bragging, how do I brag about me? Here's some things that you can do, some tricks that you can learn. First of all, you want to be factual and straightforward. And what I mean by that is your approach, your attitude, your tone to talking about yourself should be very direct and to the facts, the relevant facts that you want to brag about yourself. I've spent 17 years in this industry working in a variety of different capacities as an IT developer and DevOps professional. You heard the way I said that. It didn't sound like I was bragging. It sounded like I was explaining something to you about myself. And that's as opposed to, well, I've got a lot of experience in this field. I know what I'm doing because I've been doing it for 17 years. So I assure you that you don't need to worry about me. You can immediately, I was a little ham handed, I know, but you can immediately hear the difference in my tone of voice and my attitude. The second way I did that is going to be a lot more off putting to people, because the simple fact of the matter is I wasn't especially straightforward or factual about it. I took the approach of this is why I'm awesome, and led with that instead of this is what you need to know about me. Here are the facts. Here is how I'm being straightforward about it. Another thing you want to know how to do is how to use something called feature benefit selling. This is great. I think everyone should learn the basics, the fundamentals of feature benefit selling. I first learned it in one of my earliest jobs. I was, I think, 17 years old. I worked at a tuxedo rental joint, and they taught us how to sell those tuxedos using feature benefit selling. And the basic idea, just like it says with feature benefit selling, is you talk about a feature, which is a property or a trait of the thing you're selling, and then you immediately follow that up with the benefit of that trait. So we can sell ourselves. When we're selling ourselves, we want to use feature benefit selling. It's not just that I've spent 17 years as a database administrator working on a variety of database technologies. That is the feature, that is the trait, that is the thing that I have. What's the benefit to you, or what's the benefit to me? Because I've spent so much time working in database technologies, I'm comfortable in a lot of different database administration roles, and you need someone who can be flexible and dynamic and work on this new database product that you've got. Well, I know how to do that because I have a lot of experience doing that. So it's the feature and it's the benefit. And you can do that. You can practice that both on yourself, which I recommend you doing, but also just on anything around you. Just reach around and grab an object, a stapler off your desk, and try to sell it using feature benefit selling. Talk about a feature of that stapler, and then talk about the benefit. This stapler is black. That's the feature. The benefit of that, well, it's going to fit in any office decor, and it's going to look professional. You get the idea. Really, really practice that. Look it up if you want to. I think feature benefit selling is a really important way. It's easy to sort of internalize it and make it an automatic part of the way that you talk about things, which is huge because then it just kind of rattles off, just kind of rolls out very naturally from you. So practice, practice, practice that. Another thing you should not do is never discount or equivocate when you're talking about yourself. This is a problem I actually struggle with quite a bit, and it stems from it stems from a little lack of confidence and possibly low self-esteem. The desire to avoid overselling yourself. You don't want to look like you're overselling it. So you say, well, yeah, I've got a lot of experience with Cisco technologies, but that was all in school. I haven't done any in a professional capacity or production capacity. Stop right there. You don't want to discount. You don't want to equivocate on the features and the facts and the straightforward nature of what you're selling. It's, hey, I've worked with Cisco technologies at university. The interviewer, the person that you're talking to, can decide how much they want to discount your experience or your feature or whatever it is that you're talking about, don't do that job for them. And by not discounting, by not equivocating when you're talking about yourself, when you're bragging, you really sound a lot more confident and a lot more comfortable in what you're talking about. And then this last one is really, really important. It obviously only applies in certain narrow scenarios when you are, say, applying for a job, but do not read your resume. They have a copy of your resume printed out in front of them. They have already seen it. You do not want to get up there and say, well, from the years of 1997 to 2001, I worked at Acme Industries producing widgets. They don't want to hear that. They can read that. So you don't want to waste your time and you don't want to waste their time doing that. But, and this is really, really important, it's almost 100% likely that the person you're interviewing with has not read your resume very, very closely. They probably had a whole bunch of resumes. They picked and chose the ones that really jumped out at them, that spoke to them, and they haven't internalized it. They haven't memorized it. So while you are not reading your resume, you do want to refer back to your resume. You do want to highlight your resume. You want to say, well, you guys need someone who can manage the production line for your widget factory. That's what I did at my years at Acme Technologies. Yada yada yada. You get the idea. You want to reference back to what is on your resume, call their minds, recall it to their minds, but you do not want to read off what is on the resume, and that is so important when you're talking about bragging yourself. The resume already exists. It's there. It's a list of things that they need to know. Don't recite it. Just like you wouldn't recite a PowerPoint presentation, bullet point by bullet point, don't recite your resume. It's important also when you are communicating your self-worth to make sure that you tailor your presentation to your audience. You're not always going to be talking to the same people. You may be interviewing for a new job with the hiring manager who is not especially close to the actual job and the work and the technology that you're going to be working with. Or you could be interviewing with someone who's going to be a potential teammate or your team lead who is going to be working with you closely on a day-to-day basis. So, A, make sure you know what they care about, and they being in quotes there because, they is going to change from meeting to meeting, from presentation to presentation. If it means asking, who are you, what do you do at this organization, and what will be involved or what will your involvement with my job be, that's okay. Interviewers love to hear that. People love to hear that. It shows engagement and it shows interest. So you can absolutely say, yeah, just so I understand, what's your position here and how will you be involved? Once they answer that question, once you know what their level of involvement is and where they're going to be, tailor your presentation to that person. Don't just have a set, static, presentation that you're going to read to whoever happens to wander in front of you. That's no good. You want to look like you're talking to them. You want to know what they care about. At the same time, you can't be completely flexible dynamic. Sometimes you need to know, what do you care about? This is about you after all. You know what your biggest strengths are, you know what your weaknesses are, and you know what you want to highlight and what you want to talk about when you are communicating your self-worth, when you are bragging about yourself. So is it your experience in the field? Is it the wide variety of technologies that you've worked with? Is it your, your great haircut? Whatever the case is, decide what you care about and make sure that you are talking to that point. Make sure that you are speaking to the things that you care about. And it's really important to tailor your presentation on both ends from that perspective. What do I want to know and what do they want to know? What's in it for them? This calls back to feature benefit selling. It's not just about the features. It's not just about what it is that you have or what you know or what you can do. What's in it for them? Why should they care? Why should they give I almost used a four-letter word there. Why should they give a darn about what you can do? The benefit. What is in it for them? Make sure that everything that you are saying, everything that is coming out of your mouth, you're thinking to yourself in the back of your mind, what's in it for them? Make sure that they understand and they know what's in it for them. And then lastly, this is really, really important as well, be flexible or listen. And this is true no matter what kind of scenario you are in. When you are communicating your self-worth to another person, they are going to ask questions. They are going to speak up, probably very rarely. But that's even more important because that means when they do, it's important. You need to listen to what other people are asking you to clarify, what points they want to know more about. You need to listen to what people are saying, and you need to be ready to, adjust on the fly, be a little bit flexible. You wanted to highlight points A, B, and C. They ask for a little more in-depth knowledge on B. Well, you better make sure that you're ready to talk a little bit more about B. So always be listening to what the people you are communicating with are saying back to you. Communication, I'm going to talk about at the end of this, is a two-way street. They are part of this communication as much as you are. Make sure you're hearing what they say and you are speaking to the things that they ask you to speak to. Now, how do you get good at doing all of this? Well, it doesn't come naturally to most of us. It certainly does not come naturally to me. I'm closing in on 40 years old, and I still think that I'm not especially good at it, but I work at it every day, all the time. It takes practice, and yeah, that's right, practice. You ever heard that old joke, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. So, how do you practice what we're talking about here? How do you practice these the feature benefit selling? How do you practice bragging about yourself? How do you practice tailoring your presentation? Well, number one, it's the silliest thing in the world. It sounds ridiculous and it'll feel ridiculous doing it, but it's important to do is look in the mirror, right? And say it out loud. You want to look in the mirror at yourself while you are doing this. Look at your facial expressions. Are you smiling? Are you confident? Do you seem nervous? Are you looking up, in the corner of your eye because you're trying to recall something? That's never a great sign. You want to look your audience in the face, look them in the eyes while you're saying these things. You want to be confident and comfortable about what you're speaking about. And the only way to get there is, practice, practice, practice. So whatever, close yourself in the bedroom, send the kids away, send your spouse away so that you have some private alone time, and practice this to yourself in the mirror out loud. I can't stress that enough. It is so much different saying things out loud than it is saying them in your head. You have to work on saying it out loud. Write it down. This is important. Along with saying it out loud, you want to make sure that you write these things down. And I'm even going to say, and as a nerd, techie computer guy here, actually get a pen and a piece of paper and write. Don't type it into Notepad or whatever on your computer. Actually physically write it. There's a lot of science out there that engages different parts of your brain. It helps you learn and internalize the points and the information that you want to make. So writing is different than speaking, and it's different than thinking about. And again, it helps reinforce these things inside of your mind so that you can recall them and you can speak to them and you can talk about them without stumbling over yourself or having a lot of so you get the idea, right? Practice, practice, practice includes saying it out loud, and it includes writing it down. It also includes role play with a friend. At some point, I told you to send your spouse and kids out of the room. Call one of them back in. Ask them to play the part, to play the role of the person that you are communicating with, because communication is a two-way street. You cannot effectively communicate with only one person. You need someone else. So get your friends in there to work this out, hash this out with you, so you get some practice saying it out loud, not just to yourself, but to them. Get their feedback. Ask them what they thought. Work on what they say. Listen to them, right? We just talked about that a second ago. Listen. Listen to what your partners say when you ask them to work this out with you and do these things with you. All of this practice is really, really good, again, at internalizing the information that you want to present and that you want to present in a comfortable, confident way. Lastly, say it out loud again. I know I'm harping on that point, but it is just so important to feel these things coming out of your mouth, to actually say the words, see your facial expression, hear it in your ears, have someone else hearing it. Saying it out loud is so, so important. When it comes to communication of you, of what you like about yourself and what you want people to know about you, say it out loud. And I'd like to finish with a point that is it's really important to me and really something that I think stands out a lot. I know in all of my time spent interviewing candidates, and I've spent a lot of times on both sides of that desk, both interviewing people as well as being the interviewee, the most important thing that anyone could ever do was demonstrate. Don't just elucidate. By the way, I love any excuse to get the word elucidate out. Demonstrate. Show what you know how to do or what you are able to do. This is, for years, this has been just standard stock practice for developers, which I was for a long time, because it's easy to sit down with your desktop and build a program that does something, that shows something off. If you are in that scenario, if you're in that situation where you can develop software or a script or something that demonstrates your skills, bring that to the table. It was a little bit harder for folks in the infrastructure side of things because, well, you can't exactly bring a whole network infrastructure into the office, but that's not exactly true anymore. You can use the cloud. I have cloud written 3 times there. You can use a lot of tools to create virtualized environments to demonstrate the things that you know how to do. And this is so much more important than talking about being able to say that I know how to, subnet with IPv6. It's like, look, here is a subnet that I set up with IPv6. You go to this URL in your browser, you can see what I did there. Even if it's just for fun, even if it's just goofing around, make sure that you use the tools around you, the things that you have available to you, in order to demonstrate, to show a physical implementation of your skills. You want to provide concrete examples to people. Every single example that you can provide is worth half an hour of you talking about it. I'm serious. It is just so huge. It is so important. And remember, every interviewer, every person that you are speaking with, every receiver of your presentation is having to guess about what you can do and what you are saying and your self-worth. They are taking a lot of what you say at face value, but they are putting their own spin on it, and they're thinking about it in their mind, is this true? Is this right? Is this what we need? Is this not what we need? When you slide something off over the table to them and you say, look, here's a thing that I did that you can look at and you can see, man, it pays off enormously. And I can't tell you how important it is to take any opportunity you can to demonstrate your skills. Now, I'd just like to finish this up by talking about a neat little bit of serendipity that happened. I started a new book this week, reading a new book that is called Words on the Move, and it's he's a linguist, and it's all about the English language and how the English language changes and morphs over time. And one important bit that he makes early on in the book that I just loved is that when you are talking, when you are speaking with another person, you are communicating, and that is different than just talking out loud. Communication involves everyone involved at the same time. Everything that we say and we do when we are communicating is both, talking about what's in our mind or what we want to say, but it's also acknowledging and responding to shared knowledge between you and the other person. It's not just a series of I talk, then you talk, then I talk, then you talk. We are constantly and always adjusting the way that we speak in order to speak to this ethereal cloud of knowledge that surrounds us. So if there's three people in the conversation, then we are talking to all three at the same time. You are always doing this in your words, in your communication. Communication is a two-way street or a three-way street or a four-way street. Communication is never just one person. It always involves multiple different people all simultaneously communicating and understanding and receiving all kinds of information. You need to keep that in mind when you talk about communicating your self-worth. The words that you use, the way that you communicate needs to reflect both yourself as well as the people on the other side of the desk from you. And that's just something that I like to keep in mind. I thought it was really cool that on the week that I'm doing this webinar, I just happened to start up that book, and it had something that I really, really liked about it.